Okay, greetings one and all, and welcome to this math lesson. Glad that you are here. Now, for this lesson, we'll be considering question number 10. Now, this question comes from let's look at it. It comes from a BGCSE past paper, a BGCSE mathematics past paper, and this is actually paper 2. And so we're going to look at question number 10. Okay, so let's look at question number 10, beginning with the first question. So it says, in house construction, the safe load M kilograms that can be supported by a beam with a length X meters, thickness T centimeters, and height H centimeters is given by the formula M equals 4th squared divided by x. Okay, so we have this formula that is given, or we can say this equation that is given, and M is the safe load, and that's measured in kilograms. Okay, X is the meters, sorry, X is the length rather. Okay, T is the thickness, and that's measured in centimeters. H is the height, and that's measured in centimeters. And so they are saying, okay, you are given this formula, you are given this equation. If T equals 4.5, H equals 10, and X equals 3.6, tell me the value of M. Okay, what would be the safe load? Okay, if we know that the thickness is 4.5, okay, if we know that the height is 10, and if we know that the length is 3.6. Okay, so with that being said, let us answer this question. Okay, so we need to determine what M is. Okay, we need to determine what M is. If T is 4.5, if H is 10, and if X is 3.6. And so let's consider this question. All right, so notice that we're trying to figure out what M is. Okay, we know that we must place back the 4 as a part of the formula. But what is, and let's just put it all together. We have T8 squared divided by X. Now the question is, what is T? Well, we know that T is 4.5, so there's going to be that M equals 4 multiplied by, okay, because when we see them together like that, that means multiplication. It's going to be multiplied by 4.5, so it's going to be 4.5 multiplied by H squared, okay, H squared. Now, what is H squared? H squared is going to be 10 squared because 10 is H, so it's going to be 10 squared, all divided by X, which is 3.6, so it's going to be 3.6. Okay, so let's do the step by step. We're going to do the top number first, or we're going to do the top expression first. So we have to figure out what is 4 times 4.5. Okay, 4 times 4.5 times 10 squared. So I'm going to use my calculator to evaluate what is 4 times 4.5 times 10 squared. Okay, 10 squared. Okay, so when I place it in the calculator, I got 1,800. We're going to divide it by 3.6. So what is 1,800 divided by 3.6? That's 1,800 divided by 3.6. That's going to be equal to 500. So this is 500. Now we must keep in mind we must keep in mind that M is the safe load. And so the safe load is measured in the specific units. And they told us that the safe load M kilograms. So M is measured in kilograms, so this is going to be 500 kilograms. We're going to use kg to represent kilograms. So this is kilograms. Okay, so with that being said, let's consider the next question. Now we have AII. And so they're saying, hey, if you know what M is, if you know that M is 588, if you know that T is 10, and if you know that X is 4.8, then tell me what is going to be H, what is going to be the height. If you know the safe load, if you know the thickness, and if you know the X is the length, okay, so if you know the safe load, the thickness, and the length, then tell me what would be the height. So that's what this question is asking us to determine. So let's consider this question. And so we're gonna paste it here and bring that all the way up. Okay, so based on the question that we have, we know that the formula given to us is M equals 4T H squared, all divided by X. Now we know that M is 588, that we know that we still have the 4 there. We know that T actually is 10. Okay, so that's going to be 10. And we know that X is 4.8. X is 4.8. And we have nothing to replace with 8, so it's still simply going to be 8 squared. Okay, we don't want to write that too far off because it's still multiplication. We want to keep it close to imply multiplication. This is 8 squared. Okay. Now, although I put the 10 in brackets, that still means multiplication. You could also use the multiplication sign and a multiplication sign there if you do not want to use the bracket symbol. But all this just means is 4 times 10 times h. Okay, so what is 4 multiplied? Sorry, my apologies. It's supposed to be 10. What is 4 multiplied by 10? 4 multiplied by 10 is definitely 40. Now we have 8 squared divided by 4.8. And that's going to be equal to 588. Now here what we're going to do is we are actually going to cross multiply. Now the reason why we want to cross multiply is because we want to basically get rid of our denominator. Okay, so we want to have everything on a straight line equation. We don't want to have the denominator, so we're going to multiply 4.8 by 588. What is 4.8 multiplied by 588? Okay, so that's going to be, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to multiply 4.8 by 588. And that's going to be, so let's write that down for us so that we can have it written. So 588 multiplied by 4.8, that's going to be equal to, notice that we have 1 multiplied by 48 squared, so that's going to be 1 multiplied by 48 squared. The next thing we do, we say, what is 588 multiplied by 4.8? So 588 multiplied by 4.8 is going to be 2,822.4. That's going to be equal to, what is 1 times 48 squared? That's going to be 48 squared. Okay, so what we're going to do here. Next thing that we're going to do, and let's do it on the next side. So let's do this. This is gonna be, so we have 2,822.4. So this is gonna be 2,822.4. That's gonna be equal to 448 squared. What we're gonna do is we're gonna flip the equation or switch the equation, because we know that 2,822.4 equals 48 squared. So if they're equal, then if 2,822.4 equals 48 squared, then that means that 48 squared equals to this. So if this equals that, then that equals this. So there's no problem with switching them around the equal sign. So I'm just going to switch it around the equal sign. The reason why I'm doing that is because we usually have the variable or the letter on the left side. We usually have the numbers on the other side. So for aesthetic purposes, for regularity, this is how we usually do it. I'm gonna switch them. So we could switch them, that's no problem. If one side is equal to the next, we could easily switch them with no problem. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna divide both sides by 40, because I'm trying to make sure that only 8 squared is on the left side. And so I need to get rid of that 40. So I'm gonna divide both sides by 40. We know that 40 and 40 cancel out each other, leaving us on one side with simply 8 squared. So now we have 8 squared equal to 2,822.4, all divided by 40. What is 2,822.4 divided by 40? So let's divide that by 40. That's going to be equal to 70.56. So now we have 8 squared equals to 70.56. Now, in order to get rid of the square on top, the reason why we want to get rid of the square on top is because our goal is to only have h. Okay? The question says, hey, what is h? Not what is h squared. Okay? And so in order to figure out what is h, we need to get rid of that square on top. So in order to do that, we need to do the opposite of squaring something, which is taking the square root. So we can take the square root of both sides of the equation. And so it's going to be that h, okay, h, because the square root cancels out with the square, leaving us simply with h. So h is going to be equal to the square root of 70.56. What is the square root of 70.56? What is the square root of 70.56? So let's use our calculator. The square root of 70.56. The square root of 70.56. The calculator says that that's equal to 8.4. 8.4. Now we must bear in mind that this equation, this setup, okay, this setup works, okay, for h greater than 0, okay. Now, why is that the case? It's the case because here we are only dealing with positive values, okay, and so the reason why I say for h greater than 0 is because technically, right? Technically, we could have a negative, because really, when we take the square root of both sides, what we're really supposed to do is we're really supposed to do plus or minus, okay? But because we know that we're dealing with h, and h is, based upon the question, h is height, okay? H is height, right? And height cannot be negative, okay? And so what that means is that we're going to restrict our value for h to only be a positive number, okay? And yeah, to only be a positive number, okay? So we only want h to be a positive number, and if h is a positive number, then we don't need the plus or minus sign. We know that immediately that, hey, we are dealing with a, we are dealing with only a positive value. So we don't have to worry about the negative component, okay, or the negative part. So I'm just going to move this positive or minus. Let me move this positive or minus. Let's see if I could just erase that in isolation. I have to erase the whole thing. No. Okay, so let's move the positive or positive and minus equal. Let's move the positive or minus, the plus or minus sign. Like I said, really and truly, when we take the square root of something, we are really supposed to put positive or minus, okay? But because we know that height is a positive value, we restrict our value for h to only be a positive number. And if we restrict rather our value of h to only be a positive number, then that means that this equation would hold. It would be true that the square root of, it would be true that h squared, when we say that h squared equals to 2,822.4 divided by 40, it would be true if we say that if we take the square root of both sides, we are dealing with only or strictly a positive number. So this equation is only, the way how I write it, it's only going to be true only if the value for h is restricted to be a positive number. If it was any real number, then we would have to say that it could be a positive or negative. It could be a positive or negative value. Okay, but h is positive. Our length, sorry, our height is a positive value, and so we're going to restrict our h to be greater than 0, strictly greater than 0. Okay, and that's good. It works for our purposes. This is if we're being really technical about things. So h must be a positive value. And so the value for our height, if we go back to our question, they ask for what is h when m is this and when t is this. And so we're going to tell them what h is going to be. H is going to be a positive value. We know that. More than that, h is going to be equal to 8.4. And they told us that our height is measured in centimeters. It's going to be 8.4 centimeters. Let's check that. Was it centimeters? Yes, h is centimeters. Okay, moving right along to the last one. Okay, to the last one. Let's see how much time we have. Okay, the last question. They said, rearrange the formula to make t the subject. So you want to take this formula and we want to rearrange it such that this t is the subject of the formula. And when we say subject of the formula, we basically mean, notice that for this question, m is the subject. So m is in one side and everything else is on the other side. When we say we want to make t the subject, that means that we want to make sure that t is on the side where m is and everything else is on the other side. And so how would we do that? How would we make t the subject of this formula instead of m? Okay, instead of m. And so let us consider this. So what we're going to do is we are going to rewrite our equation. So m equals 4t h squared divided by x. In order to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. So place, we're going to place, we're going to say that m is going to be divided by 1. And that makes sense because, 7 is really equal to 7 over 1. 8 is really equal to 8 over 1. 9 is really equal to 9 over 1. And so m really is m over 1. Okay, that doesn't change anything. Okay, so we can put m divided by 1, even though in the equation they just give us m. It's fine. We can simply put m over 1. The reason why I'm doing that is so I'm going to be able to cross multiply. Okay, and so we're going to say x multiplied by m, or m multiplied by x. And so that's going to be equal to mx. It's going to be equal to, what is 1 times 48 squared? And so we're going to have 1 multiplied by 4t8 squared. And so this is going to be mx equal to, what is 1 multiplied by 48 squared? Well, that's simply 48 squared. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to divide both sides by, notice that we're trying to get rid of the 4, we're trying to get rid of the 8 squared. Reason being, we want t on one side, everything else on the other. So we need to get rid of the 4, and we need to get rid of the 8 squared. So we need to divide both sides by 4 8 squared and 4 8 squared. Again, we're doing that because we want to get rid of the 4, and we want to get rid of the 8 squared. We only want t in the middle, or t by itself rather. And so what that means is that we're able to now to cancel the 4 with the 4, the 8 squared with the 8 squared, leaving us simply with t on the side equal to mx divided by 4 8 squared. And we're going to flip it around or switch it around, and that's fine. It's going to be t equals to mx divided by 4 8 squared. And so there you have it. T is the subject of this formula. Again, t is equal to mx divided by 4 8 squared. And so that is how we rearrange the formula to make t the subject. Hopefully you found this video to be helpful, and I'll see you in another video.